Gather round, everyone, and prepare to be swept away by the thrilling exploits of Geno, Clive Davis, and Nick Sheehan as they embark on a daring journey across the silent screen. They'll ride through the annals of film history, recounting the captivating saga of the silver screen's very first Western superstar. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Hart to Hart, the William S. Hart podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I believe this is what episode are we on? I believe this is episode 7 or 8 now of the Hart to Hart, William S. Hart podcast. I'm, of course, one of your hosts, Geno, and I'm here with my regular co-hosts, Nick Sheehan and Clive Davis. And tonight, we're going to be reviewing 2 more films as we continue to soldier on through William S. Hart's filmography. And those 2 films are The Return of Egan and The Gun Fighter. But before we get into reviewing both of those films, we actually received some feedback on our previous episode discussing The Aryan and the Captive God. And this comes from my friend Bruce Calvert, who is known as Silent Film on the Nitrateville forums. And this is what he had to say. Regarding your discussion of the racist elements of The Aryan on your podcast, you've got to remember that these films were influenced by current events. Pancho Villa and his gang had raided Columbus, New Mexico that year, which caused the United States to send an army unit into Mexico to attempt to capture him. That failed. This would have made movie Mexicans an easy villain, just like there were dozens of films and TV shows with Arab villains after 9/11 in 2001. Why bother to explain the villain's motivation when you could just show stereotyped Mexicans with sombreros and the audience will likely assume that they were born to be bandits? So do we want to analyze that or unpack that, or do we just want to move into our reviews?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, it's funny. I didn't really consider the dates. It's fine. It's actually kind of amazing for to think that Pancho Villa is alive at the same time.
Yeah.
MS Hart is making these films. That's fantastic. Just even to consider that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. It would have been in the zeitgeist. People in the States would have obviously had negative feelings in that moment historically. So yeah, as a filmmaker, you're dealing with, you want things to be easy, right? You want people to easily identify who the heroes and the villains are. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
No, it is a good point, and it's also quite interesting that he mentions the 9/11 thing as well, because you do have to wonder, because it's been long enough now that a new generation has come along. If they go back and watch some of those films from 2002, 2003, 4, whatever, they might be shocked by some of the anti-Arab sentiment in some films from that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would probably be just like something from another era for them,
right?
Yeah, so it's part of being a film fan as well, isn't it? Is seeing things like that change, and I always remember in the introduction to the second Psychotronic book by Michael J. Walden, there's always that laugh out loud line when he's talking about this, and then he says nowadays, in the mid-90s, all villains are long guys with ponytails called Wolf, and now that, which seemed super kind of relevant at the time, and now that's gone kind of into the past and become an archaic sort of stereotype as well. But yes, I do remember the ponytail guys named Wolf.
Yes,
toting Uzis and stuff.
But it is true. I think, like, as a film historian, you sometimes forget that you need to also be a historian, and then to right. that the films are not separate from the context and the time, and but it tickles me to think of William S. Hart shooting these movies while Pancho Villa is actually riding around Mexico.
Yeah.
and Zapata.
No, good point, well made.
Yeah. Wow.
Cool. Thank you, Bruce. Also, he can get away with, he can be in that Monty Python sketch, right? And is he on I'm not Bruce then? It's fine. He's Bruce, so there's no confusion.
Yep. All right. So we're going to move on to the return of Draw Egan?
All right. The first film we're going to be discussing is The Return of Draw Egan, which was released October 15th, 1916. It was produced by Triangle/KB under supervision of Thomas H. Ince. It was distributed by Triangle as well, and it was in production between April 29th to May 24th, 1916. The production cost was $13,307.65, which in 2025 is $395,715.79 in 2025. It was directed by William S. Hart with a story and screenplay by C. Gardner Sullivan. It was photographed by Joe August with art direction by Robert Brunton, and the assistant director was Cliff Smith. This film was preceded by an unavailable film called The Dawn Maker. The cast consists of Draw Egan / William Blake being portrayed by William S. Hart, Poppy being played by Louise Glaum, Myrtle Buckton being portrayed by Marjorie Wilson, Arizona Joe being played by Robert McKim, and Matt Buckton being portrayed by J.P. Lockney. And the plot of this film is, a month after being pursued by the sheriff and a gang of locals, notorious bandit Draw Egan finds himself in the town of Broken Hope and assumes the identity of William Blake. Upon arriving in town, he makes the acquaintance of Matt Buckton, who elects him to be the new marshal of Yellow Dog. Draw considers resigning until he meets Buckton's beautiful daughter, Myrtle. Unfortunately for Egan, his old comrade, Arizona Joe, escapes from prison and vows to make life miserable for Egan. During a confrontation, Joe exposes Egan, causing Egan to challenge Joe to a duel. Now, I got to ask Clive this question. You liked a few films back or so, or even the last one we discussed, The Aryan, you quite liked the name of Mexican Pete. Now, how does Arizona Joe size up in comparison?
Well, I understand it's a totally irrational reaction, but Arizona Joe doesn't strike me as a moniker. It doesn't, but no, Mexican Pete I like. Yeah. Does that make sense to either of you?
Yeah,
or do you just think I'm a barmy?
No, but Arizona Joe is the most, for me, like if you asked like an AI to come up with a spaghetti Western name, it would come up with Arizona Joe.
Isn't there a spaghetti Western called Arizona
There
Joe?
might be like, or
Right.
if there isn't, there should be.
Because there's Navajo Joe, but I feel as if
And
there
there's
is an
definitely an Arizona
Joe.
somebody. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see a film called If You Meet Arizona Joe, Don't Worry, My Friend, Your funeral will be
Yes.
paid. Or something
Yes,
like that.
exactly.
Yes.
Pray, because Wisconsin Philip is here.
Yeah. Anyway, so do you want to jump in, Clive, or who wants to go first with their? I'm going to hold back this time, to give my 2 cents.
Well, if I may, I was going to because I was wondering about this. If I couldn't quite figure out, so there was something about this one, especially the long, wonderfully choreographed and shot scenes of people racing on horses, which I thought was really kind of impressive and still genuinely quite thrilling. And I couldn't figure out, is this the form just incrementally getting a bit better and more sophisticated, or am I becoming also more acclimatized to watching Westerns from this era? So I'm kind of getting into them more. I'm slightly over that barrier, or, of something looking quite so, I suppose, primitive in some ways compared to the films of today. And I couldn't quite pass, and maybe it's a bit of both, I don't know. But I have to say this one was very visually kind of striking and kinetic, and I thought it was quite a nice little Western. I mean, it's not, not that didn't quite raise to the levels of something like a Hell's Hinges, but just I can imagine gonna see this in a a theater in 1916 and coming out and thinking, "Ha, that was a damn fine Western, nice bit of hook, just exciting all the way." And I do like the reveal the first time William S. Hart sees Marjorie Wilson. It's really registers. He's like, "Whoa, I think I might just stick around." Like it really kind of yeah, and she's a very handsome lady. But no, I thought this one was just yeah, quite a rollicking good time. And I'm not quite sure if it's because they're getting more sophisticated or if I'm just acclimatizing. Any thoughts on this?
I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B. I think you're finally, becoming comfortable with this style of filmmaking. I mean, not to say you haven't seen silent films prior to this project. You certainly have,
Hmm.
being a well-versed film watcher. But I think you're finally starting to settle in to this style of
Yeah.
filmmaking and this style of Western. And also,
I think that's you're right. It's the specific, it's not the silent of it, it's the silent Western of it, because
yeah,
my image of a Western is something tends to be, kind of wider vistas and big, like, cinematography from a later era and
yeah.
also color, I suppose, also factors in. So yeah, it's not so much the silent, it's the silent Western I think I'm becoming used to. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and to your other point, I think also that, pardon me, I think you are correct in saying that the films are becoming a lot more polished.
Mm.
They're becoming a lot more, pardon me again, I think they're becoming a lot more streamlined, so to speak.
Yes.
And they're becoming bigger and more
Yeah.
grandiose. I mean, they're experimenting with like camera angles. Like in this one, there were scenes of like William S. Hart, during the final parts of the film, like the camera, doing a tracking shot as he's walking towards, Arizona Joe, and then him walking into the camera and it being totally zoomed in on his face, during the duel scene, and like the montage, also
Mm.
with the images of the sun and everything. So I think the filmmaking is certainly becoming a lot more sophisticated. And I like this movie. I really do. It's good. I
Mm.
love some of the lines in it. It has some quite some biting lines in it. Like when William S. Hart first arrives to the Broken Hope, I believe it's called. Yes, when he first arrives to Broken Hope, uh, he's shown, talking with this rather unscrupulous character, and he says something to the effect of, I thought they didn't allow animals in here. If I knew that, I would have brought in my horse. you know.
Yes. Yes. Also interesting as well, they do that thing about they deliberately misspell some of the title cards to kind of indicate if someone's,
The
not so well educated or
yeah, the
not so well
vernacular.
spoken and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, no, I actually I agree with you. In fact, I would say both of these for me um, are like they're not. Yeah, okay. We're not talking Hell's Hinges tier, but we're not too far below either.
No, no. I think
Like,
it's just it's unfair of us to the
yeah,
second one. I agree with you. I think if you could see it properly, it might have the same effect. But obviously,
yeah,
or we get there. That's slightly compromised, isn't it? But
yeah. But
yeah,
I do. But both films that you're right. There's a slickness to them. There's
they
not a lot
move,
of
right?
yeah.
They
There's
shift.
not a lot
Yeah.
of fat. They're definitely they're
No.
lean. They're mean. They're lots of fun. They both have the very cute Marjorie Wilson, who
Yeah.
kind of is like the Jennifer Connelly slash Winona Ryder of her time. In fact, her hair is so 80s that it kept pushing me out of the. I was like, how can her hair in 1916 look like
Yeah.
in one of the films she's got like almost a full-on kind of perm, and the other one it's I don't know. Anyway,
To be fair, 80s hair was often pushing people out of rooms and things. And the shoulder pads, obviously.
yes.
um,
Yes.
but this film also has, of course, Louise Glaum as Poppy, and
Ah, yes.
she really, this is the film where I got it. Like up until now, I've always been like, Louise, whatever. But this one was like, no, her agent of chaos, character that she plays, I think she's really nailed it here.
Oh, she's
Yes.
horrible in this, isn't
The
she?
way she's just cranking up
Yeah,
everyone,
yeah.
kind of like wanting to see violence between men and kind of wanting to have this control. Yeah, she's just fantastic.
You
And
know,
it's a pairing of the good girl and the bad girl. Like they're cast really well, those two ladies.
not to go to this area because I want to keep this podcast classy, but I do have to say that if Louise Glom had, been in another era, she would have made it for a fabulous dominatrix in some movies or something. Like,
Sure. Or
oh
even if
my
she just been
goodness.
even if she just been in Germany at this time, she might have been doing that.
Yeah.
The German silence or, their own thing. But no, she was fantastic. I also quite like the guy who plays Arizona Joe because he looks like if Harry Dean Stanton and Frank Zappa had a child.
Yes. I kept saying he looked like Frank Zappa all throughout the movie. And of course, it's our good old friend Robert McKim, who
Kim, yeah.
played a clergyman and previously in The Disciple played the evil twisted doctor who breaks up William S. Hart and his wife.
Hmm.
So it's always awesome to see these William S. Hart regulars, appearing in these
Yes.
films.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is. It does bring something extra when performers go from, oh, that person, I don't know who they are, to like, there we go, that's that person. I mean, depending on the film. I mean, there's certain films that work better, without the cast that you recognize, right? There's certain
Yeah.
films that benefit from not knowing. But for this kind of thing, yeah, no, it's nice to yeah, it's like it's like getting to know uh John Ford or Sam Peckinpah's kind of regular stable, right?
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm a big fan of the B westerns, for example, and so I'm always thrilled when I start watching one of these B West when I start watching one of those B westerns from the sound era, from like the 30s and 40s. It's always a thrill for me to see like Charlie King in the cast, or see John Merton or Robert Portman, or one of these other guys like Victor Adamson,
Mm.
in some of these films. And it's like Charlie King goes from making Ken Maynard miserable in one film, and then he walks across the street to the next studio and he's like, fighting it out with Buster Crabbe in another film. That's how it was back then. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, I'm not sure if Nick is aware of this. Or we might have mentioned it before, but Vic Adamson is Al's dad.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. Yes. Yeah. That's amazing.
Who was
So,
Australian, I think, right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
well, they kind of had a Wild West in Australia as well, so that all works.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
well, I think he was known for was he known for his like lassoing skills or something, wasn't he, Vic Adamson? Or
maybe, but it's funny Nick brings that up because there are some, and this is a great term that I would like to dig deeper into this genre of Western. They were making silent Australian Westerns at the time,
yes,
and they're
yes.
called meat pie Westerns for some reason.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. There's a genre I had never heard of before. Right now, I was
Yeah.
There's the next
yo
podcast, lads.
meat pie westerns.
Yeah.
Meat pie Westerns.
Meat Pie Theatre.
I'm down.
Oh Lord.
I have to say, so there's this near the beginning of this when William S. Hart is still the bad man, right? Like he hasn't made his conversion. I mean, this is very much standard in that way for him, right? Not a
Mhm.
lot of surprises. Yet he's so comfortable doing it now, and we're comfortable watching him do it. But at the beginning, he's leading this massive gang, right? And
Mhm.
they all flee back to this cabin. And that whole scene was amazing, I thought, when like there's this huge gang of kind of posse trying to come up, they're
Yeah, yeah,
fighting
yeah,
the
yeah.
cabin,
That's the scene I thought that was really, really impressive.
and then
Mhm.
and then they've tunneled their way out, and that whole scene of like them
Yes,
slipping
yeah,
down through the
yeah.
tunnel and out the other
It's a
side.
very exciting opening. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really good. And then I
Should
did.
mention as well, I don't know if we actually, I think we sometimes take for granted at this period. So we should mention that William S. Hart did direct both of these as well, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, you can see a confident hand, I think. And then I also quite like the fact that when he goes, these town names, you've already brought them up, Gino, but they're amazing, right?
Yeah.
Broken Hope Town and Yellow Dog. Um,
Yes.
But when he shows up, he changes his name from Draw Egan to
Oh,
William
to
Blake,
William Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is very religious and
I also like that they explain. There's a little explainer that yeah, a yellow dog is a kind of like a feral beast that doesn't welcome strangers or something like that, isn't it?
right.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, no, as I said, this was fun. And I also quite like the fact that Arizona Joe remains a kind of a sleazy scumbag to the very end. His
Yeah.
final act in the movie is to attempt to basically cheat in their gun duel, right?
Mhm.
And as I was reading, I might have been reading again the review at Movie Silently, so it might be from there, but it was either there or somewhere else. They pointed out that actually it's quite nice that this film treats ballistics in a serious way. That it's not just like you can't take cover behind anything and it's going to be bulletproof. And in this case, our villain takes cover behind something that's not bulletproof, and you
yeah,
know,
that was a nice touch.
yeah, it's a cool scene.
Spoiler alert, but yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
and I
it's been a
gotta
while since the film was out. Yeah,
and I gotta remark, and this may be maybe me being a total novice to the later westerns and the spaghetti westerns and stuff, but I am somewhat familiar with them. I've seen some of them, and of course, there are famous examples like the Clint Eastwood Man with No Name films and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
The dollars and all that.
Yeah.
Well, for it's quite interesting the way the final duel in the film is staged, because it's almost like you could see the precursor to like
Yes.
Good, the Bad, the Ugly in this.
Yeah, this
yeah,
and in the one we're going to talk to about next, there's a couple of scenes in that that really was like when the camera comes right in on
yes,
Tart's face,
yes,
right to his eyes, and I was like, he could be Lee Van Cleef. This could
right.
be, yeah. Um,
Also, I'm sure Nick would agree with me. I would find it actually quite great fun because that's the thing. Sometimes seeing films through someone else's eyes kind of make them new for you again. But I would very much like to reciprocate uh, Gino kind of generously, having us on this show to talk about things more in his wheelhouse. I think it would be fun sometime, Nick, don't you, to set up like some good spaghetti westerns and have the three of them watch and discuss them. I'd be fascinating to see
oh
because
yeah,
I know what you and me think about them, but it would
yes,
be really interesting to see how Gino reacts
and
to
yeah,
some
like
of them, the
pick a
ones he hasn't
top
seen
10.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and maybe stay away from the Leone films.
yeah. If you're if
They're so
if
well
you're up
known.
for that one day, Gino.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I mean, I know I've seen one be western. See, I know I've seen at least one spaghetti western in my lifetime, and it was off an old Mill Creek set. Their 44 movie collection of spaghetti westerns,
Right.
and it was called "If You Meet Sartana, Pray for Your Death." I think it was
Mm,
with Gianni Garco, and I believe Klaus Kinski has a role in that. I love that one. I
Yes,
that's a
love
good
Gianni Garco
series.
in that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So
yes.
if there's more like that, I'm certainly up for seeing them.
There's plenty more like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
of
that's where Nick will come
508,
useful because a lot of them are kind of a bit of a chore to sit through, to be honest with you. But Nick knows the landscape quite well, so I'm sure he could cherry
yes,
pick some
Mm-hmm.
nice ones for us.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Of the 500 of them, there's about 50 that you need to see.
Ah.
And the rest of them, you're probably okay with not. But we don't have to do 50. I can edit it down to like 7 or 8. The absolute necessities.
Yeah.
I
Um,
mean, I'm just writing that down, put that on the list. So
So,
after meat pie, if we're not full, we'll have some spaghetti.
seven spaghetti westerns you must see before you die.
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
exactly, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I have anything much else to say except that I like this one and I think I like the next one even more,
Yeah.
even though it's not totally extant. But
Yes, I think
what I
I
saw
would
of
as
it,
well if
I
I
think
could see it properly, or at least on an equal kind of basis.
Mhm.
yeah.
So why don't we do that? You ready to go into the next one there, Gino?
Okay. Now we're going to move on to our next film that we're going to be discussing tonight, and that is The Gun Fighter, which was released February 11th, 1917. It was preceded by a few unavailable or lost films, The Patriot, The Devil's Double, and Truthful Tulliver. The Gunfighter was produced by Triangle/KB under the supervision of Thomas H. Ince. It was distributed by Triangle, and it was in production between September 25th to October 31st, 1916. The production cost was $22,387.02, which in 2025 would be $665,699.61. It was directed by William S. Hart with a story and screenplay by Monty M. Catterjohn. It was photographed by Joe August, and the art director was Robert Brunton. The cast consists of Cliff Hudspeth, the killer, portrayed by William S. Hart, Norma Wright, being portrayed by Marjorie Wilson, El Salvador, played by Roy Laidlaw, Ace High Larkins, being portrayed by Joseph J. Dowling, Cactus Fuller, being portrayed by Milton Ross, Jimmy Wright, being portrayed by George Stone, and Colonel Ellis Lawton, being portrayed by J.P. Lockney. And the plot of this film is Cliff Hudspeth, an outlaw vigilante known as the Killer, receives a threatening letter from evil El Salvador warning him not to tread on his trail. Hudspeth, unfazed, heads to town where the bandits gang are looting from townsfolk. Cliff and his posse get the drop on the gang and has a standoff and kills Cactus Fuller. Norma Wright condemns Cliff for his actions, and he kidnaps her and takes her back to his hideout. Cliff begins being haunted by all of his murders and cries to God with regrets. He returns Norma to Desert Pass, the town from which she came, the next morning, and while in town, he is propositioned by Colonel Ellis Lawton to find El Salvador and kill him. Cliff accepts, to Norma's dismay, and El Salvador and his gang invade Desert Pass and kidnap Norma. Cliff tracks her down, kills El Salvador, and is shot for his trouble. He tells Norma to head back without him as he passes.
You asked me before, Geno, about the moniker of Arizona Joe, but the one I'm quite impressed with here is Monty M. Catterjohn. That's a hell of a name.
Yeah,
and you could even modify it. He could be Montana M. Catterjohn to fit the pattern. Yeah. So that's a good name.
And before we get into this, we have to give a big old tip of the hat to a gentleman by the name of Christopher Bird, who is the man who was primarily responsible for the version of the film that we all had the wonderful pleasure and opportunity of viewing. It was his around 30 minutes or so reconstruction of the film, which was carried out by not only him, but I believe Nick had mentioned earlier, Movie Silently. I believe the woman who runs that website is also a graphic designer and recreated the original title cards. And I believe Kevin Brownlow had a hand in this. And there were just so many cooks in the kitchen that made this reconstruction possible. And it came from a variety of sources, 9.5 millimeter film prints, I believe some 35 millimeter, and it all combined into what I believe to be probably a great reconstruction. I mean, and I'm so glad that Chris reached out to me on Nitrateville, because originally we were just going to see like a condensed one reeler of the film called I don't even remember the original title of
Is it The Man Killer?
I believe so, yeah. And so we got to give him a big tip of the hat. So yes, thank you, Christopher, for allowing us to see this private viewing of The Gunfighter, which, as I understand, the upgraded version of that actually never got a screening because of COVID-19 around that time. And Chris sent us some literature, and that's where I've gleaned some of this information associated with the restoration. I don't know if either one of you had the chance to read the literature I sent you, the PDF, but it was quite fascinating information regarding this restoration.
Before we get into that, I was just wondering, I had a quick question, because I watched both versions just kind of out of curiosity. And I couldn't quite figure out, is there anything at all other than, for the completist, seeing the man killer title card and is there any benefit? Is there anything to the abridged version that you wouldn't be getting out of the restored one?
Well, I don't really think so. I think the version that Chris sent us is likely going to be the definitive version, and
it seems to be, yeah.
And I think that there's more meat in potatoes in the Chris Bird version than the version that I had bought on Harpodian's website.
Right.
So again, big tip of that to Chris,
Mm.
and just a great restoration. A lot of the film looks really, really good and really
It's
Oh, it
nicely
does.
cleaned
Yeah.
up.
it's crazy how clear some of it, like it's as close to high definition as I've ever seen from that far back.
Mm.
Like it's really quite
Yeah.
stunning. Um,
So how much are we? Obviously, we're missing chunks. About another 15, 20 minutes, maybe
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Because they've all been,
something like because it's like a two-reeler, right? It's
yeah.
like the previous film.
Most
So
of them have been clocking in at about 50 minutes, and this one's 30. So
right,
yeah,
right. But enough of it survives that it does pretty much like there's no special pleading necessary. You can kind of watch as is, and it has pretty much the whole story. Um, but again, just want to be conscious that we are missing
I would.
some of it. So it is a compromised
I
version.
wondered if the scope of the ending might be greater. Like there's some quite cool scenes quite near the end when El Salvador rides into town with his big
Yes, yes.
bandito, and suddenly things are on fire, and
We're almost in Hell's Hinges territory
yeah, it
there.
starts
Yeah, yeah.
pushing into that Hell's Hinges kind of apocalyptic vision. And I thought, oh, I bet there's more of this, and it's too bad that this has been lost
Yeah,
because I
Right.
think
and
it's
it's also
something.
on that. Yeah, because it's on that wider canvas. Because again, we get the religious angle comes into it here as well, which always pushes it into a slightly bigger scope, right?
Right.
And God's intervention and everything like that. So yeah, I think you might be right. There might be a bit more spectacle
Hmm.
uh, if we were able to see it. But no, no, yeah, you're quite right, Gino. Hats off to everyone involved because it was it's a night and day viewing experience, really, isn't it? Watching. I don't know if you actually. Well, I know you would have, Gino. But did you watch the shorter version as well,
No,
Nick?
no, I just watched but I watched this version twice. I liked it that much.
Hmm.
Mm.
Because so yeah, so I can't imagine myself going to a print that's grubbier looking and that's had a bunch cut out of it when this is available.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I think the only thing that's kind of worth doing, I suppose, is so. Am I right in thinking, Gino, from the get-go, that 11-minute version, it's not like a longer version that has stuff missing. It was actually originally presented like for 8mm collectors or something. It's like an abridged version. So
Yeah.
in and of itself, it's complete, right?
I believe so, but
Right.
you are missing elements of the film, with it being 11 minutes, I believe.
No, no, but what I mean is that's like you're not
That's a
missing.
complete film in and of itself.
Right, right. That's what I mean.
that's
Yeah,
how it
yeah.
was
So it is
released.
it is kind of a legit artifact.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice to see that cleaned up as well, just because it did once exist in that form. And
Right.
I think it's,
Would
sometimes
make for a
those,
nice yeah, would make for a nice
yeah,
bonus feature on a Blu-ray or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But I should say to speak to what you were asking about before, Gino, I didn't read the PDF, but I did read again on movies silently. The review there is only partially a review, and then it's a much longer article that details this reconstruction effort. Obviously, partly what was done in terms of the recreation of the title cards, but more than that, decisions made around tinting, all of the questions you have to kind of ask when you're involved in any kind of art restoration. How closely can we actually, how much guesswork do we have to do, in terms of what the original intentions were and so on. But it's a good article. It's well worth looking at.
Yes,
Um,
indeed. Yes, indeed.
but yeah, no, the film's pretty great. As I said, all I'm left with is a feeling of like, damn, I'd love to see this thing in that beautiful 35 millimeter print without anything missing because I have a feeling this might rival Hell's Hinges if we could see
Mm.
it in its totality. And with the clarity, we can really see just how cute 1916's Winona Ryder actually was.
Yes.
She's she's quite. Apparently, there was some romantic interest back and forth, even though there was apparently quite a spectacular age difference. But according to something I was reading, he was kind of interested in her at this point, and she was like, "You're a little bit old for me," and she maybe seeing somebody else. And then later on, she had second thoughts and came back, but he had moved on, found another girlfriend. Um, so anyway, a little behind the scenes
Bit of
gossip.
ancient Hollywood gossip there.
Yep. Um, but there's a bunch of things I really enjoy about this. Like one is how emotional William S. Hart is in this movie. Like he flies off the handle just at a sec. Like at the beginning, it's because El Salvador has basically issued him a kind of a challenge and said like, hey, because in this case he's kind of like he's almost like a bounty killer, right? He's like a bad man who kills bad men. Like that
Yeah.
seems to be the impression I'm
Yeah,
getting.
like I got the impression that he was some sort of like a vigilante almost.
Yeah,
Like he was an outlaw vigilante, but a vigilante nonetheless. And he had
yeah,
like and he had like a little black book of like not just
yeah.
in a Colt 45. He had a little black book of all the people that he killed. And what I found interesting was when what's her name, Norma, played by Marjorie Wilson, is in the bedroom. She finds this picture, I assume, of some woman, and I'm assuming it could either be it could either be Cliff's Hudspeth's wife or his mother or something. And I
I
could
thought
all
mom. I thought
yeah,
mom.
mom, yeah. And I could only assume that she was killed by a bandit posse some time ago, and this was his like being judge, jury, and executioner. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool to see in 19, what, 16, 17?
Yes, yeah, yeah. No, he's yes, and he's clearly got a very short fuse.
Mm.
Because so that first scene, he gets this letter of challenge basically from El Salvador saying, "Hey, I know you're trying to, kill all the bad guys or whatever, but like stay out of my area." And he just flips right. He jumps up. He
Yeah,
like whips a chair across the room, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, settle down." And then when he shows, so he runs into town. There's that great face off in the bar, right? And
Mm.
that's
yeah,
where he walks up slowly and his face just slowly fills the whole screen. And it's when the guy's been lipping him off inside saying like, yeah, killer better not show his face in here. I'll kick his ass. And then, oh, will you? And then, as I said, it's pure Clint
didn't see
Eastwood
you
stuff.
there.
Like yeah, to me, it's totally, yeah, fucking great. Anyway, so yeah, and then he shoots the guy outside in the street, and this is seen by the pretty young Norma, and she just goes after William S. Hart's character, and he's really hurt. Like you could see like his face is she's called me a murderer and a coward, but rather than like cope with it in a normal way, he kidnaps her. He's like,
Right.
I'm going to show you I'm a good guy by kidnapping you and taking you to Killer's Roost.
Oh
And
yeah.
right, takes her up to this cabin full of like his fellow like killers and locks her in a room. And you're like, that's not a good idea, William S. Hart. This is not a way to convince this woman you're not a psycho. And then he goes over to try to like make amends or whatever, and she's immediately gives him another hard time, and he's like, he doesn't know he has nowhere to go and he tells her this directly. He's like, I don't know how to deal with you because when people upset me, I kill them, but I can't seem to kill you, so I don't quite have a skill set to cope with the situation. And
Right.
it's hilarious to watch him kind of just fumble and just like, I don't know what am I supposed to do.
Right.
This, she keeps hurting my feelings, but I can't do anything about it.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and I don't know why, but it was yeah funny and I don't know cool.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
mean,
we're learning a lot about Nick today.
Are we? Okay.
with this, with the sort of acting that William S. Hart's displaying here, we're almost harkening back a little bit to that on the night stage version of William S. Hart, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely he's more emotional here. He's a bit less cool than he is in some of the other films that we've seen around this time.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. Um, there's also a great scene. So when we finally do see El Salvador, wow, yeah, he's painted with a wide brush. Definitely we're in this again, and again, I think it is always word like trigger alert, but there's some language in the title cards, and it was very much a decision made by the restorers not to touch it because it is true to but there's some racial slurs thrown at our Mexican banditos that are not much fun. Um, but anyway, when he does show up and he's got the full like kind of I don't know, gaucho costume on, and then immediately the kind of the final act is El Salvador kidnaps our pretty young good
Yeah,
Christian
and
girl.
And that is a terrifying scene because of the face he makes when he kidnaps her. It's like
Yeah.
I hate using like these teeny bopper like internet terms, but if there was ever the textbook definition of the word rape face, that
Yes.
was it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's not. It's not only implied. It's heavily implied that that's
Yeah.
where things are going in the scene.
Yeah.
And there's quite a cool thing where. So William S. Hart, the one thing that this film establishes, he has a thing where he will never draw first.
Right.
He's gonna let the other guy go for his gun and then he'll gun him down. But in this case, he's standing outside the room and they're inside and it's in the dark and they're struggling with each other and he has to make a choice of like, do I just take a shot and hope that I shoot the right person, or do I shoot into the air in order to create a flash of light? It's very cool. Like the concept. I
Mhm.
don't know if it was possible to really pull it off with the technology of the time, but I could see it in a movie now. And it works well enough. We get the idea of what he's doing. But yeah, it's a cool little thing.
Yeah, and again, with this film, I mean, with a few of the films that we've seen up to late, there's always been some sort of, like an agreeable, send the audience home happy ending. But
Right.
this, our hero dies at the end and doesn't get the girl, and the girl actually rides the horse off without him, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
again, we're getting those dreary endings from a William S. Hart movie that nobody else was doing at this time. Like there were very like I haven't seen very many silent films, but I've seen enough where I'm like, yeah, this is the exception, not the rule here.
Yeah. 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 The downbeat ending is always a surprise, and for me, always a pleasant surprise. I quite like a movie where you're shocked or where you're surprised.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's too bad. That's actually unfortunately one of the scenes that is missing is William S. Hart's character being shot
Mm.
by the banditos. But we do see him kind of, and he's wearing the scar at the end too, which is kind of nice because like we've seen him go fully from being outlaw to lawman, right?
Yeah.
As the film plays out. Um, and also
Yeah. Go ahead.
there's a little brother character too who's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Um,
And
um,
which of course Clive likely hates and
Probably. Being a hater of all children.
yeah. And
That's
we
right.
got
I'm immovable on this.
and we also need to point out Nick's, seemingly cathartic love of, needing to see William S. Hart actually shot, in order to get that gratification.
I
Uh,
do. I do enjoy a good sad ending.
yeah, yeah, which we've noted before on this podcast. But yeah, the fact this was like essentially a twist on the general formula that had become formulaic at this time within his films. I mean, he's not just playing a good bad man; he's playing a bad man who's internally good, who is doing the wrong thing for the right reason for the right reasons. He's a vigilante in this film, an outlaw vigilante, which I found kind of awesome for 1917. And I agree with what you guys have said. While Christopher's reconstruction is superb and I heavily love it and enjoy it, and I was in shock watching it, if there were a more complete version available, I do agree that this would rival Hell's Hinges because of just what we've seen, in the photography and everything. Oh my gosh, like leagues ahead of its time.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and
I would
forgot.
say like um um objectively, yes. Subjectively, I think I'm always going to be a little bit more drawn to Hell's Angels just because it's so burn the whole fucking place down,
Hmm.
bleak, just more to my taste. But yes, yeah, yeah, just in terms of the criticism of it all, I think so. Also worth noting, and I think this is probably quite authentic to the times across these two films. There was clearly like a real paucity of people who could be considered sheriff material, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a very dangerous killer who can't be trusted, but do you want to be sheriff? Like,
There were no background checks back then.
no, 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 no.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Mm.
what I love too.
So there's that whole scene that's kind of incredible where it's back up in Killer's Roost, and at this point he's
That's a
lost.
giveaway for a name for
Yeah,
your,
yeah. Well, and also,
call it something else, not
Yes.
Killer's Roost. People are
yes.
going to get on to you.
And actually, speaking of what you were saying before, Gino, as well about his like his attitude. There's a great line in the of dialogue where he says something along the lines of like, it's when Norman's berating him about like you're a coward, you're a killer, and he's like basically says you can't murder a murderer. Like
Yeah, or
there's
something to
something
that
like,
effect.
like yeah, like killing a murderer isn't murder.
Yeah.
Twisted logic.
I also quite like that he refuses steadfastly to ever promise that he's not going to do it in both of these films. Actually, Marjorie kind of begs him like, please, like give up your murderous ways. He's like, yeah,
Well, the
Yes.
thing is, I like that. I totally get that because if you get inside his head, for him to break a promise to her is worse than killing someone. And
right.
he's aware enough that he might do it again. So he's like, I'd love to promise, but then I'd be breaking the promise. Like he knows that might happen. So yeah, none of that tracks. It's quite a sophisticated character, actually, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
With
how he instantly goes from promising to like, what? You want me to be sheriff? Yeah. Okay. Let me go after El Salvador. Like without even blinking, without even
yes.
taking a minute, you know?
Um, but there's this whole scene where so they're up on Killer's Roost. She's locked in the room. He's come out. He's emotional because she's been calling him a coward and a murderer, and he doesn't know what to do about it. So he starts to drink heavily, sits at the table, and then this ghostly vision of his past victims, right, the people he's executed, starts appearing like on the wall, basically, right, in this kind of weird projected thing, and um, yeah, it's strange. It's almost like German expressionist or something. It's like
Mm.
cool and weird and yeah, I was kind of not expecting it. But I dug it.
Me too. Like, I think you like the thing is I believe if this film was better known and and Chris and at least Chris's version was more widely seen, I do believe that this would, rank among his best films. Truly. Like
Mhm.
it may not, like I don't know how much it could stand up to Hell's Hinges. I mean, we did get what Clive said earlier about, about Hell's Hinges being a more gratifying film in many ways, but this would certainly be on his top five, if not even his top three, I believe.
Yeah, I suspect
Yeah,
so.
no, both of these were yeah, they were like I said earlier, they're really good examples of how the form is progressing as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yes.
no, these are both maybe other than the one with it, this is the most kind of satisfying episode yet, I think, in terms of
Yes, yeah,
content.
yeah. These two films watched back to back. Definitely do
Yeah.
yourself a favor and do a double bill of these.
Yes.
And then Hell's Hinges and whatever the other film we watched with Hell's Hinges was, that was a really solid double bill as well.
Yes.
As you know, lads, I could talk to you all day long. Unfortunately, I gotta get out there. I just found out I've become sheriff of Tokyo, so I
Oh,
gotta get going and pick up my badge
excellent.
and gun.
Cardiff
Yeah.
Sam is on the rise.
Yeah. So
I don't know if there's a better Welsh town than that. There probably is, but
Yeah. But I guess with all that being said, I guess this wraps up another episode of Heart to Heart, the William S. Hart podcast. I have been Geno Cuddy, and my co-hosts have been Clive Davis and Nick Sheehan. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts, and anywhere where you find great podcasts like this. You could feel free to come and join us on our Facebook group. If you just look up Heart to Heart, William S. Hart podcast fan group, you'll find it immediately. And yeah, this has been a great project thus far, and I look forward to seeing your reactions, guys, to the further films in his filmography, and even myself discovering things that I had never thought of.
it's
So
a shame. If I were independently wealthy, I'd like to it would be nice. I'd like to, when we're all done, that you could purchase all episodes on wax cylinders. Would seem to be like, appropriate.
Either that or
Unfortunately, I don't have the
shellac
funds to make that happen. So,
yeah. But yeah, guys, thank you, guys, for coming along on the ride, and I thank the audience as well for coming along on the ride with us. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. And in the words of William S. Hart, adios, amigos. God bless you all, each and every one. Good night.
This has been a Geno Cuddy podcast production.